What's up, peeps? Welcome to another edition of Hip Hop Head. My name is Julian Williams. Pretty much tonight I got a review for the Roots album, Undun. A lot of people who have followed my channel or know me personally or seen me on Facebook know that I'm a huge fan of the Roots. Love their albums. I like pretty much with the Roots. I love the evolution of their sound. The sound just evolves, pretty much by every couple albums or every album, if that. Organics, Do You Want More, Illadelph, Half-Life, Things Fall Apart, Phrenology. Phrenology being my favorite album by the Roots, and personally, and since it's my favorite, I think it's the best one. But in terms of quality and sound, Things Fall Apart was probably the best album as far as quality and sound. But my favorite to listen to is Phrenology. I think that Phrenology I can just listen to back and forth all the time with Water and The Seed and Break You Off, Rock You, songs like that. Was just it was just like all playback songs to me. And and when Things Fall Apart, I had to be in kind of a specific mood to listen to Things Fall Apart. But their sound has continuously evolved with Rising Tide and The Darkness of Game Theory. And this is their first concept album. And I felt as if in '99, it felt as if Things Fall Apart was a concept album just by the sound of it, to where it was more I think it was more experimental because it was a more organic, it was more of an organic, rich sound on Things Fall Apart compared to, the other albums that they had before. Because, Do You Want More and the other album, Illadelph, Half-Life, it was just, a lot of, lyricism. Malik, it was two, at the time it was like two rappers. It was Black Dot and Malik B. And, both of them just went in on a lot of the instrumentals that they did. And there was Rozelle. Do You Want More is probably, in terms of sound, their most memorable album. If you listen to it, it's probably their most memorable. All their albums, they bring something different to the table. And How We Got Over was an alright album. And I made the mistake of listening to it maybe once or twice before I reviewed it. And the thing with How I Got Over is, compared to a lot of the other albums, How I Got Over is not the album that you can just play back again and again and again. But this album, the concept album, Undun is an album that you can actually play back. It's not the same quality as Things Fall Apart. It's not the same quality as Phrenology. But the album is quality. It's a quality album. It's a 4-mic album. It's not 100% a hip-hop album. Hip-hop doesn't have too many concept albums. And this is kind of hip-hop's version. In a way, you got a character and you have a direction of the album. And with the character and the direction of the album is a character by the name of Redford. And pretty much it's just, describing that character throughout the songs of the album. It's not full of little sappy love songs. It's just songs that pertain to that character. Songs such as Light Speed Stomp and Tip the Scale and Cool On. Cool On was my favorite track of the album, by the way. But it was very melodic. It was a very melodic album. Very, the sound pretty much changed. But there were parts of the album that somewhat got boring. There was a kind of a boring part of the album to where everything just sounded very one-dimensional and monotone. But you had the usual suspects. You had Dice Raw. You had Greg Porn. Big Crit was a guest on the album. You had Bilal, one of the Soulquarians, on the album. But just overall, it was a very organic. It's somewhat of an organic, rich sound. Organic, rich sound. You had good lyrics. You had organic sound. But the problem was, sometimes with the songs, you couldn't tell. If you listen to the album and you're not looking at the songs, from time to time, you would have trouble telling if the songs had changed just by the sounding of the album. And it was just with the sound. You don't know if you're getting like a Sgt. Pepper type album where something just leads onto the next track, and you don't know if it's like with the Day in the Life when you listen to Day in the Life, you hear the song, you hear the slow part of the song, and as you hear the slow part of the song, it gets to this weird, odd sound, and you don't know if it's at a different track. But then when you know it's that track, you know it's the same track, and it just goes from one sound to another, But it didn't have that kind of unpredictability. The album wasn't too unpredictable, but it was a concept album. So with the concept albums are usually 50-50. Whether it's rock and roll, jazz, or R&B, or hip hop, concept albums are very hard to do. It takes a lot. It's very time consuming, and it's a lot of work and it's a lot of writing to keep the hip hop fan interested with the tracks. Cool On was probably my favorite track on there. I like Cool On. Make Mine was a good track. Sleep was a good track. Sleep was a very slow, solemn track. Lightspeed was another good one. But there's not many songs to necessarily choose from on Undun, just because the ending of the album was just instrumentals. There's the last like four, I want to say 3 or 4 tracks were just instrumental tracks, short instrumental tracks. It was a short album, short, straight to the point, does the job. But it's not too much hip hop. It's everything is rapping, of course, and you have the singing and you have the R&B choruses, of course. So, but pretty much towards the end, you have songs at the end that are not hip hop songs; they're just instrumentals. It's not necessarily a hip hop album in terms of overall concept of it. It's a concept music album, and with it being a concept music album, the difference of sound, there's a difference of sounds, but there's a repetitiveness of flows, monotoneness of the flows in the album. But just overall, I'm going to give the album 4 mics. It's a 4 mic album. I just think that the energy of the album, there wasn't too much energy put into this album. I think there wasn't too much energy, but there was a lot of focus and great writing. So with great writing and focus on continuously staying on that topic, staying within the concept, overall, it is a good album and it's a solid album to buy. But just overall, it's a 4 mic album because, but I'll just say this, it does good at keeping the listener's interest. Just, hearing the tracks on the album. But if you don't look at the names of the tracks and you just listen to the album and you hear like all these instrumentals, you're kind of thinking, okay, like where are they going to go with this? When are we going to hear the rapping again? And then the album is over. But so overall, it is a solid album, but it's just not thoroughly a hip-hop album. So anyway, peeps, I'm out of here. Hip-hop head. Get at me. Peace.